so based on my understanding, his foundation, more than really, I guess, like hosting these fundraising and awareness events, it's more you guys go to certain conferences and just try to spread the word about the organization. So I have a follow-up question. Would you, or could you mention maybe one of the biggest conferences, or I guess the most influential conferences that that you guys were able to attend?
Yeah, absolutely. There's an organization, short name's called FORCE. It stands for Facing Our Risk of Cancer Empowered. And they are a wonderful, wonderful resource for hereditary cancers. We work with them directly as advocates, support for, if they have men that come to their organization, we can help them, but they really have expanded because genetic mutations have expanded, every year they're finding more and more. I mean, I have friends who say, oh my goodness, I had breast cancer, I had ovarian cancer, my mother had breast cancer, my aunt had breast cancer, and I got tested and I don't have it, and I don't have, a mutation. There's nothing that they have found. And I said, well, they haven't found it yet. It's probably there. They just haven't discovered it yet. And more are being discovered. And FORCE works with government regulations. They are a wonderful, supportive organization. I found them honestly on my own as a breast cancer survivor, and I became very involved with the local Philadelphia chapter. We've even done, for a couple of years, we did dragon boat racing together, which was awesome. And have raised help raise funds for them that way as well. But they do hold a conference each year. Unfortunately, the past couple of years, it's been virtual, but they've been in California, they've been in Florida, they've been in Philadelphia. They also work, just as we work, with the Vassar organization, the Vassar Center out of University of Pennsylvania Hospital. That is where I had my genetic testing completed, at the Vassar Center. My oncologist is a part of University of Pennsylvania, and she runs the Vassar Center. So honestly, I know I'm in the best of hands with my doctor, Dr. Domchek. And yeah, so we work with a lot of other organizations. And as I said, I got together with, other local large foundations, because it's important that we share this information. This isn't, I could say we're the only male breast cancer organization today, but now we're not. There are several others, and we have to work together, because the main cause is the same in the end. The results should be the same, to help educate and save lives. So, you have to work together with other companies, other, foundations. Absolutely very important.
Yeah, I agree. I think collaboration is incredibly important, especially when you're kind of fighting for the same cause. And also, I've never heard of dragon boat racing, but it sounds like fun.
Check it out. Yeah.
Okay. I'll make sure.
Very physical, extremely physical. It's yeah.
I'll look into it. So as far as I know, like, a strong volunteer community is usually a big part of like a nonprofit and the work that they do. I know you spoke a little bit about having people like attend conferences and this sort of thing. So I just wanted to ask, like, do you have kind of like a volunteer community involved with your organization? Is it, if you do you have like repeat volunteers, or do you recruit as needed? And if one were to get involved, if somebody were to be interested, how would they reach out and look for opportunities if you have kind of volunteers?
Sure. Well, we welcome volunteers always. And you can email us directly at hisbreastcancer@gmail.com. It's just HIS, hisbreastcancer@gmail.com. We have both, and we have some volunteers that, some people like to come in, help out for a little bit, move on to something else. We have others that continue to work with us. all the time. We have a young woman that unfortunately, because her father was diagnosed with breast cancer, got involved, which is, often the case because they know somebody, and she helps with all our social media, Instagram posts, things of that nature. So yes, we welcome as much as somebody would like to put forth. We always can, use assistance with graphics that will help us share on social media to help educate and, put us out there. We often, we have blogs. Harvey's written blogs, but we often also have guest bloggers that like to share. Some are survivors that want to tell their story. Others are just people maybe that, work in the health world and are familiar with some of it. So they like to put some information together with some of their resources. And so we're always open to sharing those as well. So yes, send your blogs and graphics, if you've got hidden talents and you're looking for some spare time, or you are maybe attending high school, college, and that there's going to be an opportunity to, bring awareness at a basketball game, at some school activity, then yes, we welcome that as well. So sure, take all the help we can get.
So speaking of volunteering, you mentioned a lot of in-person volunteering opportunities that occur with the His Foundation, but I was wondering if there are any remote volunteering opportunities that the audience could potentially help out with.
Most of our volunteers are remote. We don't all collaborate in an office environment. I think even if we did, we probably wouldn't today right now. So everybody is remote. So we have people all over. I work with people in Israel. I work with people in the UK. Anywhere. So absolutely. Wherever your reach takes you, that makes it even better.
So also, obviously, we were talking about kind of the audience, maybe getting involved. If anybody's interested, we have a lot of high school students that maybe watch this. We're looking for opportunities to get involved and make a change. So do you guys kind of have an age limit on who can participate? I know we make designs and stuff. Do you guys have a certain age range where they can do it? Or if you're in high school and you want to get involved, is that also a possibility?
We had one year and there was a school, it was a charter school out of New York. And the principal came up with this idea, and she had these elementary school children write letters to male breast cancer survivors. And the letters were extremely moving. I'm sorry for what you're going through, and it must be very difficult for you and your family. And we shared those letters through emails and through our social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those, So is there an age limit? I can't say that there is. I think, unfortunately, young children, this can hit them personally as well with a parent or a brother or an uncle that can be diagnosed as well. Obviously, we want to work with what's appropriate and with parental guidance and all those things above. But so I will say more commonly, we hear from some high school, definitely university, college students reaching out who become aware of male breast cancer and our foundation. And, we work together to, like I said, if they know that there's something going on at their school where they can set up a table and, share our information, then that's wonderful. No age limit, young or old. My mom was a breast cancer survivor. Our aunt was also a breast cancer survivor. Probably where the genetic mutation was passed down was from our mother's side. She had a lot of cancer, unfortunately, on her side of the family. Some too young to even know where it probably began many years ago, whether there was male breast cancer or not. But my mother passed away, our mom passed away in 2020, 14 days shy of turning 95. Her sister lived to 103. So does the genetic mutation or breast cancer mean a death sentence? Absolutely not. You can live a long, healthy life, but having this information helps. Absolutely. And they helped. Our mother was on the documentary, so there's no age limit, young or old.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that about your mother. I also wanted to ask, we're talking about kind of like the age and certain stuff like that. Do you think it's important for maybe younger students, like young adults or just people going into middle school or high school? Do you think it's important that they maybe get involved with these causes and, kind of help with these organizations that are trying to make an impact? Do you think that's something that's important to do when you're a bit younger?
I don't think it can hurt. It's always a great way to give back, and I think it's meaningful. I also think that, a younger adult, they're so much more tech savvy than maybe some of their parents or grandparents. And so if they can bring a tool, a piece of information to the adults in their family, then great. That's just another great way to, great avenue to use to access that information. So yes, you should definitely get involved, because they not only may be helping themselves, but they don't know who else they might be helping in their family.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, I know, like, personally for me, my family and I, we started volunteering for causes that were important to us from a young age. That's sort of how we were raised, to help out with whatever we're passionate about from a young age. So I think it's important that people do that. I mean, like you said, it can't hurt, and it can also help just create those habits and get you used to that, so you can continue these really great things for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So for my next question, I wanted to shift more towards the digital aspect and the marketing aspect. So in today's digital world, obviously extensive communications and awareness campaigns in social media are very important for getting up the names of smaller organizations. And more specifically, there is a lot of competition in reaching out to donors for donor engagement, given the number of causes that are advocated for. Even, for example, you were mentioning that there are quite a few male breast cancer organizations that have come up recently. So based on that fact, how is the His Foundation handling the fact that there are a wide array of causes that potential donors are willing to donate to?
We just keep doing what we do. We're going to keep plugging away as best we can. Like I said, we don't have large overhead and large corporations that we have to answer to. So in some ways that helps. I mean, other ways it's a detriment, but in many ways it helps. Like you said, in the digital world, doing interviews with you is extremely helpful. It's just another form that we can then take and share and help. Not only are we educating people about male breast cancer and hereditary cancers, but also hopefully bringing awareness that his breast cancer exists. It's an important foundation, and it's helping to save lives, and also a great resource of support for families dealing with a diagnosis. So putting ourselves out there as much as we can is what we do. Sharing as much information as we can on the social media outlets, extremely important. And it's, it doesn't matter if there's 2 other or 20 other organizations. People are going to make their own decisions and connect where they're going to connect, and they have to do what feels right to them. I know it's an important cause, so we just keep plugging away.
So we talked about a lot of things, obviously, and it's a known fact that you're invested much more personally in this cause because of your experience, and that's why you've been so invested in the cause for so many years. But my question to you is, apart from your journey, is there anything else that kind of drives you to keep going with the His Foundation that keeps motivating you to continue with this initiative?
Well, you're right. It's personal for me. Not only as a survivor myself, but now to have my brother a survivor, and we're lucky. Like I said, his was caught early. For most men, that's not the case. So what drives me the most is, I'll talk to a stranger on the street if I'm stopped at a at a corner, or I'll never forget one day my brother and I, we met out in California together. We were at a concert. It was a 3-day concert with his wife, my husband, just get away. And in between acts, we were standing there, started talking to a gentleman, and we make it a point to be out there, to speak out. And he started, I don't really even know how it all began, but he started to mention something about, prostate cancer. And he said, well, have you ever had genetic testing done? And he looked at us like, what? Why would I do that? What is that? And, and that's how Harvey and I are. We'll just talk to people, and we'll just try to educate you. It doesn't matter where. It doesn't have to be in a conference. It doesn't have to be, on a social media platform that's just about breast cancer. It's just the average person. When Harvey first had his mastectomy, we both are beach people. We like the beach. We do one trip a year that we're together. We meet up, but in the beginning, he would keep his shirt on because he was embarrassed. He's got one mastectomy breast and one not. And afterwards, maybe 1 year post, and after we started the foundation, he actually would take the shirt off and walk along on the beach. And he wants people to stop and ask him, what kind of scar is that? What did you have? What happened? Because it's the only way we can reach people, on that personal level, and say, look, this can happen to you. It can happen to me. It can happen to you. People always think, oh, cancer, I know somebody. And we forget that, cancer doesn't discriminate, and it's not by age, and it's not by gender, and it's not by color. It's everywhere. And so we just have to talk about it. And the more we talk about it, the more we share, the more people become educated. And that's my passion. In addition to having three sons and grandchildren now, and I want them to be healthy, and so it's important for me to do it for them as well.
I think it's amazing how much you were dedicating and devoting to this cause. I think that's very, very inspiring. And that sort of leads me to our last question for this interview today. One can imagine that certain causes near and dear to the heart can bring many emotional struggles in the process, along with the upsides of handling a small organization such as this one. So that being said, do you have any tips on how to sort of just step away and return with a good mental headspace to whatever you are passionate about whenever you face setbacks?
Well, absolutely. So as a 4-time breast cancer survivor, I could have held my head down low after the first diagnosis. I was only 37 years old. I started having mammograms done at 35 because I had my aunt that had been diagnosed. And then at 37, my mother was diagnosed when I was 37. She was in her 70s with breast cancer. And I was reminded it was time for me to go, get my annual mammogram. And I remember my mom was with me, and I walked out from the back room, and she looked at me and she went, "That took too long. What's wrong?" I didn't even get out the door, and I was given all the choices. It was early staged. It's called DCIS. It's contained inside the duct, so not as invasive. But I looked at my mother and my aunt who were in their 70s being diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm 37, and I'm thinking, okay, this is just a little bit of a fluke, and I'm going to move on. Well, a year and a half later, as I was approaching 39, I got diagnosed again after a mammogram. They thought they saw something again. I guess I'm a glass half full kind of gal, you could say. So, my surgeon looked at me and said, we can do lumpectomy, we can do mastectomy, we can do radiation. They give you all the board, everything in front of you, and it's kind of up to you to make this decision. Well, I didn't go to med school. I'm not a doctor. How do I know what I should, do? You kind of have to do what feels right to you. There are people who would say, I don't want to ever deal with the risk again, and do a double mastectomy and get these things off of me. And I feel like a ticking time bomb and whatever, I was thankful that it was found early, that they were contained, that I had learned some things along the way. I remember looking at my surgeon at one point saying, so what can I do? What can I be doing to help? And he said, well, every 6 months we'll do a mammogram. And I'm like, no, but there must be something different that I can be doing. And I didn't even know about the genetic part of it yet. And that's when I did my own research and said, well, you know what? There are supplements that I can take that are helpful. There are foods choices that I can make that could be better food choices. I've always been health-minded, exercise, things of that nature, but I could step it up a little bit more, make sure I'm getting in 30, 45 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week of some good, exercise. I've also done meditation most of my life, since I was like 19. So reinforcing that again, making that more of a priority, finding those ways to remove some stress from your life. I've also worked full time. So I'm raising a family of 3 boys, which is not easy. And now on top of it, I've got my health to think about. So, at my 3rd diagnosis of breast cancer, which was like 10 years later then, so I'm now 48, and that was a little bit more overwhelming because, again, it was just a little more invasive. Again, caught early because we're checking things every 6 months. So nothing's going to get by, 2 years later. But, it's still what we call the scanxiety of going for these tests every 6 months, like 2 weeks before you have to kind of prep your head because you don't know what they're going to find at that mammogram or that MRI. And, you kind of cross your fingers, cross your toes, and, and know that you're doing all that you can, but it's not always the answer. So at that diagnosis, that's when I learned about the genetic testing. So I did that, and I had a full hysterectomy because I was at a higher risk of ovarian cancer now. Well, that's very hard to detect early. So let's at least eliminate that. And then I went through radiation, and I went on some medications. And by the time I got through all that, I really thought, and I'd only had the lumpectomy at that point. I thought, okay, I'm so ahead of the game now. I'm doing so many things, the chances of me getting breast cancer again, although higher because I carry the BRCA2 mutation, but I'm combating it with so much that I also felt like my body says, make breast cancer, make breast cancer, make breast cancer. And if I remove my breast, because of the genetic mutation, I will have a harder time killing, basically it's a mutation. Everybody makes cancer cells. Everybody's body makes cancer cells. But when you have a mutation, it makes it difficult to kill off those cancer cells. All right. So I was a little worried. Well, I won't know where to look for it. Right now, I go for testing every 6 months. I remove the part that I know is the high risk. Where do I look? So I just really had hoped that I had done enough. I kind of always felt that there was that chance it was going to come back. But again, I thought, all right, when I'm in my 70s or now maybe 80s, is when I'll have to think about it. Unfortunately, I only got another 10 years under my belt before I was diagnosed again. I was 58, 59. And at that point, and fortunately, it was my MRI, 6-month breast MRI exam that they thought they saw something. They actually sent me for an ultrasound and a mammogram and did not see it. So for a few days, I had high hopes that it was nothing. So my doctor and my oncologist said, well, let's go back and just do an MRI again. We've got nothing to lose. If we don't see it, we're good. We'll wait another 6 months. But unfortunately, they did see it. And at that point, I knew what it meant to me. And I knew that it meant I was going to have a double mastectomy. Unfortunately, I also needed chemotherapy because I did another test that's called an oncotype that talks about your risk of recurrence based on the tissue. And my risk came back much higher. And so I went ahead and had to have chemotherapy as well. But I don't know. I have my days. I won't, I'm not going to lie. There are days that I say, woe is me. And I shake that off as best I can. I have a very supportive, loving, wonderful husband. Of 42 years we've been married, and I have a beautiful family, and I live for those days, and I will continue to look ahead and do what works for me. Maybe I'm a little more selfish than I used to be. Somebody asks me to do something and maybe I'm tired and I really don't want to do it. I'll say no. I'm a little better at saying no, to make sure I take time for myself and do what makes me feel good. But I'm going to live life every day to the fullest, because none of us know what can happen tomorrow. Crossing a street, doing anything, doesn't have to be cancer. So I hope we all can go through life finding good things, and we're surrounded by good things, and that's what keeps us all going each day.
So those were all of our questions. I just wanted to ask before we kind of wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to add that we didn't discuss? You don't have to say there is something, but we always throw this in just in case. Is there anything else you wanted to add? I
think you've been really thorough, and I thank you so much for the opportunity to share all of the information that we were able to discuss. And especially, I think visit the website, go to hisbreastcancer.org. There's a lot of great information there. It tells a little bit more of our story, but really important information that's out there. Share it with friends and family members. And if you have any familial cancer, I hope you'll have genetic testing done. It's just too important not to. But thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. Okay, so I think that about brings us to a wrap. So Vicki, we're really delighted that you were able to join us here today and share your unique insights into the world of nonprofits. But I think more importantly, speaking about your experience and, how that kind of shaped your investment in in promoting the awareness of male breast cancer and kind of committing yourself to this foundation and making an impact for others. So we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come speak with us. You're incredibly strong for everything that you've gone through. And, we wish you all the best in the future with your foundation. And we hope that you can continue to successfully raise awareness around the world about male breast cancer and teach more people about it. So to anyone listening, you can visit hisbreastcancer.org to learn more. They have a lot of information if you want to, just look more in depth about it. We'll also include the link in the description and everything. And then also maybe like the email and contact information if you would like to get involved and maybe volunteer and, all of that sort of stuff. So again, to everyone listening, we hope you found this useful. Vicki, thank you so much for joining us. And hope you have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Be well.